Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So just recently, the internet was up in flames a little bit. Well, at least the black part of the internet, for the most part, because this man had the audacity to sit his black behind upon somebody's stage during a comedy moment, if you will, while he's telling his, and I quote, jokes, and fix his black mouth to say that he likes to participate in race-based role-playing, if you will, with his white boyfriend in the bedroom. He even went so far as to say he likes the dynamic where he is the slave and his boyfriend is the slave master's son. If that ain't one of the most self-hating, racist things I've heard in a little bit, I don't know what is. Now, first of all, let me address the joke, and I put jokes in air quotations. Let me address the supposed joke part of all of this. I didn't say it about 1,000 times when it comes to especially these black comedians. We need to reevaluate what we think is funny, what we think is a joke, because a lot of what the black community thinks is funny is morbidly inappropriate. Now, one moment, they're all cheering people on and still buying tickets to see comedians dragging their kids, talking about the mother of their kids, disrespecting other comedians and other individuals for shady reasons, talking about their community, using their community and degrading their community to get ahead, to make more money. It was all fun and games then. But then when he jumps up and says this, because I guess he felt comfortable to do so because he's so used to seeing comedians, especially black comedians, ahead of him tell jokes that really shouldn't be coming out of their mouths to begin with. He feels comfortable. He thinks it's acceptable. He probably thought to himself, well, they're already laughing at jokes they probably shouldn't be. Clearly they've, decided that this is okay. They've been laughing at self-depreciating jokes for quite some time said by other black people, but the moment he brought somebody white into it, now all of a sudden everybody's offended. If you ask me, he's using the same standard, the same raggedy standard that the black community used and has been going by, which is why he didn't feel wrong for why he said what he said to begin with. This is the kind of culture we've created around our comedy. So like I said, I'm trying to understand why people are shocked now. Remember, it was mostly black people saying, everybody can get it. Anything can be a joke. Y'all are too soft. Y'all need to grow up. Y'all need to be more mature. Y'all can't take a joke anymore. Oh, we're going to have jokes that are mid and mild because y'all can't take anything anymore. Y'all are too emotional. Remember, it was mostly black people saying that. So once again, I'm kind of baffled as to why they all want to be gasping now at what this man has said when this is somewhat along the lines of where we've been going anyways. Yes, he was completely off the deep end. He was wrong for it. But like I said, the black community created this culture. Why is anybody surprised now? Now, of course, because this is me, I don't know if anybody else has a mind that operates this way. But whenever people make comments like this, my mind instantly goes to what in the world is going on in their brains that would make them say something like this and even get comfortable enough to say it out loud on a public platform. Now, some people, they're real quick to defend this kind of stuff. They are real quick to defend people in their kinks and what they like in the bedroom, so to speak. But I'm a firm believer in there is a line that needs to be drawn. I can't speak to anybody else or any other kind of relationship. I promote what the Bible says. I promote what God wants for relationships, marriages. So this is what I'm going to say, and I'm going to say it like this because once again, if you followed this channel for any amount of time, you should know where I'm coming from. So when it comes to a man and a woman who is married, a husband and a wife, the marriage bed is undefiled. So what they do in their bedroom is none of my business. I shouldn't be concerned with it. Now, in that Bible, it says you better not be having no third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eight parties, so to speak, in the bedroom. No animals and crazy stuff like that. And make sure both parties, the husband and the wife of the relationship, of the marriage, of the commitment, have both consented to the aforementioned and explained and talked about activities. That means, for people who might not understand all of that, talk about what you want to do. This is post-marriage, if you will, after the wedding. Talk about what you want to do. Make sure both parties, the husband and the wife, are on board with that. Both have consented. Both are comfortable with doing, like I said, the spoken of activities, if you will. Now, once again, what they do in there is none of my business. Although there is a line to be drawn when it comes to these things called kinks and role play. Some people do these things to get themselves ready for the big moment. Although, once again, there are some things people just ought not do. Now, before I get into some of those examples, it should go without saying that you ought not force your spouse or try to shame your spouse, guilt trip them to doing something that they don't feel comfortable doing. That goes both for the husband or the wife. If you want to handcuff your wife and she tells you, I don't feel comfortable, not necessarily because she doesn't trust you, maybe she just doesn't like being restrained or she has some trauma that's surrounding that. You ought not make her feel bad and make her feel like, oh, well, I could just go get some other woman to do it if you don't want to do it. Or try to guilt her and say, oh, it's your job to please me because that's what a wife is supposed to do. It's not pleasing to God that you make your wife do something she's not comfortable with. He will hold you accountable. Just keep that in mind. And the same thing goes for the women. If your husband says, listen, I don't feel comfortable being blindfolded. Not that I don't trust you. I just don't want my eyes covered. Again, maybe he has an issue with that. Maybe he just has a problem with it. Maybe he's just not comfortable. Or sometimes you'll have women asking men to do crazy stuff, like choke them and punch them in the eye. Maybe he doesn't want to do that. Maybe he wants to be gentle. He shouldn't be told, oh, well, you're less than a man because he doesn't want to be aggressive with you. He shouldn't be told that, oh, I'll just go down the street and get Johnny the bad boy to do it since you don't want to do it. Once again, God is going to hold you accountable because that's not right. Remember that the eyes of the Lord are everywhere. He's watching y'all in that bedroom. So treat people right, do people right, especially your spouse. And just do the right thing. We ought to all be guilty of doing the right thing. Now back to what I was saying earlier. Things we ought not do. Boundaries we ought not cross. I'll give you one good example. Golden showers. I don't think God ever intended for anybody to do that to another person. Anything involving excrement from a person's body going onto another person's body, that is disgusting. Point blank period, should not be done. And also, there are people who actually do stuff like that as a part of a ritual, a demonic ritual. So why would you want to do something, partake in an activity that some people use in demonic rituals? Why would you want to do that? Especially in a relationship that you committed yourself to the other person in front of God. Once again, there are some things that should be off limits. I don't know why people can't seem to wrap their heads around that. It's this age of, well, I have the freedom to do this. These freedoms are going to get people messed up if they don't learn how to use them with some kind of maturity and self-control. Another one of those that we really should not be doing, once again, is race play. And everybody can please spare me all the explanations on why they think it's okay. If anybody is in a relationship with somebody, it's a black and white relationship, and the white person, first of all, if you approach your significant other who's black with the idea of race play, I question you. I question your actual motives if you actually married that person because you love them or because you fetishize them, or you have these deeply carnal and perhaps perverted ideas that you want to get off to. Because if you really love that person and didn't just see them as a sex fetish to get off to, you would tell them, I'm not doing that. If they even approach you with it, you didn't even approach them. If they even approach you, I'm not doing that because I love you and respect you too much to degrade you in that way. People can say, oh, it's just for the role play of it all. But we know where that came from. We know the horrendous history behind it all. That would be derogatory to you, and there are some boundaries I will not cross even to help you get off because I love and respect you too much. It's about the discipline. It's about the maturity and having self-control. It's about not being perverted. It's about, once again, not going certain places, certain things being off limits. Once again, people will try to argue, well, I still love my black wife, black husband. If I still want to do race play, once again, I question whether you really do. Some people will say, oh, well, if it helps get them off, why shouldn't I be able to do it? That's something I'm doing for them. But it's the degradation of it all. It's the lack of integrity of it all. It's the perversion of it all. Once again, I don't believe that God ever intended for us to be out here degrading people to get off sexually. That's not what God made sex for. And we need to do some self-reflection instead of being mad because we can't just do whatever crazy, perverted, carnal thing we want. And we need to do some self-reflection into why do we feel like we need that to happen to us in order to get off. Once again, I do believe that sex between a man and a woman who are married is a gift from God. But so many people have perverted it for their own, like I said, awful, raggedy, lustful reasons. It's really sad when you think about it. Now, this also kind of goes along with this idea, this crazy idea that people like to make it seem like having a sex addiction or being a deviant sexually is attractive or sexy or cute. And we've talked about this before with the R. Kelly situation. Wasn't he considered a deviant? And look at all what he done did. 9 times out of 10, these people who have these issues, it's because there is something that has happened or there's some kind of deep-rooted problem that they're not addressing, that they're not admitting to, that is causing them to want to act like this. And instead of getting help, they just do whatever their lust tells them to do. And one of the reasons why I brought this up is because he said out of his own mouth that he was a very sexual child since the age of 3 or 4. I don't know why that didn't ring any alarm bells to anybody, why people just sat and kept listening to him after he said that, which leads me to believe that people don't realize how bad of a problem that actually is. No 3 or 4-year-old should be even involved in something like that, dealing with some of the stuff that he said that he was dealing with at young ages. I don't know if he was exposed at a young age or if somebody mishandled him. But usually these kind of things indicate a problem. But instead of actually addressing the problem, we just laugh and keep going. That's the issue that I have with this. People be walking around with whole problems and they're telling you this because anybody who says that clearly has a problem. If this is true, what he said about himself, he has a problem that's very deep rooted. Again, I don't see why people cannot open their eyes and see this. But like I said, people be walking around with whole problems that they do nothing about, that they will monetize off of, that they will laugh at with other people. And on top of all of this, it sets a very negative example to the future generations. Do y'all know how many young black men were looking at him? How many young black boys were watching him when he said that, who are very impressionable, who are probably going to take his example? But people don't think about those kind of things, do they? Speaking of the future generations, I am very concerned for them. If this is what they have to watch, if this is the kind of stuff that they have to listen to, people saying stuff like this. Anyways, people roasted him for it. They called him out. They acknowledged that clearly he has a problem. He, of course, doubled down after he said the, and I quote, joke, that basically he was not going to allow anybody to shame him into feeling any differently about how he felt about it, that it was how he felt and he was going to feel that way. I just can't help but think, once again, that concern for the future generations. And what in the world has happened to Mr. Carmichael that would lead him to this perverted conclusion, to this perverted desire? Because don't get it twisted ever. Behind everything that's perverted like that, there is something that led up to it. There is something that caused it. Y'all let me know what y'all think, how y'all feel about all of this down in the comments below respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all all have a very blessed, beautiful, and safe day.